request Dr. Sagarika Mishra to present invocation. Revered Speaker of the evening, Professor Rudam Rai, very esteemed Honorable Dr. Bansidhar Pandey, our very dear advisor, Engineer Tagore Dhar, and all our dear respected friends, invitees, and members of RENASA. As you all know that we wait for this occasion every month. Despite what we wish, despite how we try, what happens is divinely dispensed. Human beings have capacity only to make effort. But what comes at the end of the effort is determined not only by human agency, but also at some other end. We strongly believe this and we carry this conviction, and the conviction always is corroborated. I do not know how to share our sense of fulfillment today, this evening, with Professor Rudan Rai with us. And what adds real meaning and significance to this occasion is the presence of Dr. Vasidhar Panda. As you know that he was awarded DLIT by the Utkur Institute a few days back, and he is known, his science by his own light, his rich exposure, his vision, sense of initiative, industry has earned him a nickname in the mind and hearts of the people, and you all know how much he has contributed to further the legacy, the Odishan legacy, the culture of Odisha, different awards that he gives. And you will be happy to know that he is the one who has been one of our very, so to say, a patron who has been always with us with our children home projects in different parts of Odisha. His organization has come all the way to address the needs of the organization from time to time, and I must confess that it is his bounteousness, his generosity, his large-heartedness of him and his workers in the organization who really have a sense of empathy for the cause of suffering and disadvantaged and marginalized. We are really grateful that he sought invitation with a humble request he could make it to be present here. Professor Rudan Rai is part and parcel of our movement. As you know that we have heard him here 3-4 times, but our members always pestered us to hear him again and again. As you know that this particular forum is though we meet and we invite people, but it's a very informal get together where our members are really keen to get educated, get sensitized, get enlightened by the expertise, by the erudition of speakers of eminence. And as you know that we are completing 5 years of our existence here, and we have such meetings in 4 or 5 different places because we believe that though we are very small, in our small way, we can make a big difference. How vast is the cosmos? Man is yet to have a complete notion of the cosmos. Man has not gone beyond the boundaries of the solar system. All the knowledge about the outer universe, the galaxies, they talk of millions of galaxies, are only inferences on the basis of evidence we have present. Compared to that, how small is the earth and how big is the earth in relation to we human beings and the individual human being. But nonetheless, human beings, though small, they contain that immense potentiality, divinity with them, infinity in them. That is why it is only man who can explore the outer universe, the outer space. So, in a small ways, we can make big differences, at least to the environment around. We have this meeting purposely because we want to carry the inspiration with us, and we want to arouse the latent goodness in every individual, because everyone at the core is good, divine. Such talks by great thinkers really go a long way in raking up, arousing the goodness in us, the universal presence in us, which makes us think for those who cannot think for themselves. This is supposed to be a think tank which reflects upon the issues, the burning issues, the nagging questions that humanity faces across time and climate, and in order to find some solutions, because intellectuals constitute a very negligible chunk of human society. But they are the people who give guidelines, they are the torch bearers, they show the beacon light, they are the path showers. People work unless they see the path. Who is to show the path if we don't do it? Besides, the society, we owe a lot to the society which has nurtured us to excellence. Whatever little we have, the society has its contribution, and we, the self-conscious individuals, have something to offer in return. But in what way? In at least thinking of the issues, the problems that have beguiled the humanity, and to participate in the process of sensitizing people around, making people conscious, self-conscious, so that people move on the righteous path. Professor Buddharand Rai, no, he told me not to give any introduction. I would restrain myself, but only 2-3 things I would like to tell about him. He is the one who as you know that he spearheaded the cultural renaissance in Odisha during Bichan Charan Patnaik time. He was we take him as an ambassador of the cultural ambassador of Odisha. It is not an eulogy, not exaggeration. It is literally true. For the last 5 decades, he has been going from place to place to educate people, to enlighten people, to inspire people. As you know that there are so many things to his more than 25 books, and some of the books I cannot but mention, because his magnum opus I should consider this a dialectic, which has created a star across among the intellectual philosophers across the world. In an international conference, I remember that people were simply amazed that such a scholar is there in India. Shankar as a romantic philosopher, there are some books which got him Odisha Sarala Award and Odisha Sahitya Academy Award. His books are Shankar as a romantic philosopher, Patre Puspe Prabandha, Jane Anubhavi Anuvar, his autobiography, which has earned him great acclaim across the country. So we all owe all that we have to him. His inspiration, his guidance, his wisdom. He doesn't talk like a wise man, but he talks wisdom. And what is last sentence I would like to say about it, tell about it, this: what he thinks can be read off from how he lives, and how he is going to act and react can be read off from what he professes. So how steps he lives, that is that is very hallmark of his personality. It is so transparent. Mere proximity with him inspires one. We feel like reliving the future, reliving when you talk to him for a few minutes, because even casual conversations are also so profound. It must have some anchorage, some linkage with some very profound truths. So we are really privileged to have you with us, and every part of the Odisha, these members of Renaissance always look for him, to listen to him. And I welcome you, and I welcome Dr. Pandya to our midst. And with these words, I welcome all of you, and I request Professor Rai to give his talk on Indian culture.
Dear President, learned guests and friends, today we shall exchange some thought. I know this is a very common thing known to all of you. Yet I will try to make an entry into this subject. Our Aditya Babu admits no bounds. If you put a boundary, he will jump over it. If you still resist, he will break through it. So better to agree with him, whatever he likes or whatever he talks. A very powerful personality that I have seen after my generation. Badrinath is there, my previous generation, later generation. And I am simply astonishingly look upward and downward to see how things are happening miraculously. Dr. Banshidhar Pandya has got delete from his own place that is Utkara. Throughout the world he is known as a great scholar in science. Great. And many degrees and diplomas have been poured on him. But he is today uniquely happy that Orissa recognized him as a elite person. He is a man of science. His argument is, if I would have been a man of science recognized, I would have been DSc. But I have become elite. How? Because I have become a philosopher beyond the limits of science. That is his argument. And really interesting that he thinks there is a subject called philosophy which is above science, rather the soul of science. And he is a miraculous presentation of that idea. We are again happy that he took all the trouble of coming here. Tomorrow he is leaving India. Again he will come someday. And I told Aditya will be very happy to see you here. So his delete, we are happily recognizing that our delete person is also a DSc person. Indian culture. First of all, let us see what is India. India, in Vishnu Purana, our oldest Purana, there is a description. What is India? India in north side stands the mighty Himalayas. Mighty. Unless we learn about Himalayas, we will never know how mighty it is. And all the three sides of the country, there are mighty oceans in those days. Of course, nowadays nobody is mighty, not even Alexander. Because flight can go over Himalayas and you can go under the sea also. But this geographic condition made India invincible. So first thing is, a country must be invincibly geographically protected. Similarly, anywhere, even a family, even a person, boundary line must be such that it must be invincible. In a person also, the boundary lines are there. And many people are without boundary lines. Some people are hard boundary lines. And I am now arguing in favor of hard, strong, invincible boundary lines. India is with that hard boundary line, it was one land, packed. So for any culture to grow, there must be a packed land. It can be an open land. There can be a culture in Siberia. Siberia is open. But here it is closed. And comfortably closed. On India also I can carry on for some time, but I don't want to because all of you know that what miraculously India is in this form, a small piece of land, much less than Africa. But Africa has not a culture in general, but India has a culture in general. Why? Because it's a compact area. But there was it is God's wish, as he says, everything happens with God's wish. I don't know whether God has a wish or God wishes or anything. There was a Khyber Pass. And Alexander entered. Greek culture gradually flowed into India. Previous to that, India had Indian culture. So now I make a distinction. Time when Alexander entered into historical time, when Alexander entered, carrying all the load of Greek culture. He was the disciple of Aristotle. He was not an ordinary man. He was not an ordinary conqueror. Young in age, he was a disciple of Aristotle. And he was carrying Greek culture with him, mighty army. And when Aristotle taught him, military invasion is no good, he said, sir, it is good for a professor to talk that way, but for me it is unbearable. Because unless military invasion is there, we can't have amalgamation of culture. There will be petty islands everywhere. I have to make the whole world one world culture. And that can be only done not by lecture pulpit, by mighty invasion of the army. This was Alexander. And I sometimes consider Dr. Banshidhar Panda as Alexander of our time. I have seen him from a young age. And what venture, what power, and all that he does. So Alexander came. And the moment Alexander entered into India, it's not a military invasion. He brought with him the Greek power, Greek knowledge, Greek way of thinking, and there was a first jolt with the Indian culture. Then for some other time we find that Vasco da Gama broke another line, that is sea. Sea was invincible, but Vasco da Gama showed that there is nothing to be invincible about sea. Anybody can go, anybody can come. And when he entered, European Christian culture found its way to India. Third is Babur. Babur means a lion. Really he was a lion because he fought for himself. And Babur came, so India got shock of Islamic culture. So with these three persons entering India, the invincibility of Indian boundary collapsed. And it became an amalgamated culture. Greek thought poured in, scholars went from India to Greece and from Greece to India, they spent money. Alexander made all arrangements so there can be exchange of scholars between Greece and India. Because he wanted to break the isolation of cultures. Cultures of the whole humanity must be one. That was his venture. Unknowingly Vasco da Gama contributed because Christian culture, European culture flowed through him. People came and the third one is Babur's Islamic culture. All these three poured into India. Previous to that, India had its own culture. You can ask me, can we say today the culture which India has is Indian culture? That is why I have already given this idea that after this period of Babur, it is difficult to say that India has a unique culture. But one thing I must add, India has not lost its culture and the unique culture has been preserved all through under the historical assemblage of accidentals. It is there. As we carry our bone skeleton, we have a skeleton. But are we aware that we have a skeleton? No. You suppose some friend comes and says, oh dear skeleton come, you will not find it. But there is skeleton, and without skeleton nobody can walk, nobody can sit. There is no structure, there is no structure of the flesh. It is the bone that gives the beauty, harmony and all that of the body. Similarly, that bone Indian culture is always there. And that bone culture sustains India today. And now how it is possible? I have clarified many a question which could have been raised. Has India a culture? Whether the Indian culture can be called Indian culture? Why Indian and not any other? I have told you that there was one Indian culture and it is the same Indian culture and it will continue to be Indian culture, only superficial growth of many things to be there. So first part over. Now let us see what is that Indian culture. Indian culture has one uniqueness. It was born in India. And the strong boundary walls kept it separated. And one thing also, it is under one military and political rule. That is called Chakravarti. Yudhishthira was a Chakravarti. Ashoka was a Chakravarti. And it was demanded on Ramachandra or Ram that you should be Chakravarti. Why? It is not for any aspiration for lands. No. It is bringing all things together on a stable head requires Chakravartitvam. So, Everywhere in India there is emphasis. He who shall rule India must rule as a Chakravarti. And there is a series of Chakravartis in India. And they bring unity to Indian life, Indian thought. And they bring real force to Indian culture. What is that Indian culture? It would have been easy for me to say Indian culture started with the Vedas. That is safe. But I am still passing on to another difficult arena where I say there something is. This is the fundamental conception of Indian culture. You say there is a pralaya. Yes. But in pralaya, there something is. The proper word is sanmulam. Satmulam. Nothing can be there without a sat behind. Even it is all false and falsified things. What is your Indian answer? Sanmulam. Even that false and falsified things have one truth behind, reality behind, and that is Sat. This is a very unique appreciation in India about man's existence. In other words, existentially, every man is positive. It cannot be abolished by any pralaya. Then it developed into that which is one. Ekam Shat. That which is there, nobody knows what it is. It's Anirvachaniyam. Nobody can describe it in language. It is there. Now you can argue, how could you know that it is there? The whole arena of Indian philosophy should be brought to the front like guns. And everybody will argue in its own way that why there is sun. I will give one example. I am going to the market. Going is a kriya. Market is a place. What about I? You say, I do not exist, but I go to the market. Impossible. So Indians found out somewhere, karta, karma, karana, apadana, anywhere there must be an is. Is means not that. Is means the existential is. So Indian culture believes that in everything there is an is. Is means existential is, not verbal is. Now, what is the nature of that is? It's one. Ekam Shat. That is one. Again you will have, how do I know that it is one and why not many? The entire host of Indian philosophy stands before you. Terrific fight to show that even if there are many, and surely there are many, so underneath, in the depth vision, there is one. What happens in religion? Religion, Eko Deva. There is only one God. Deva means to whom you worship. Call it God if you like, call it divinity if you like, anything you can say. Point of sheer admiration you can call Deva, Pitru Deva Baba. That doesn't mean Father is God. God is a bad translation rather of Deva. Deva means that effulgent one. Eko Deva. What a declaration on earth. We are now saying religions differ.